Paris, August 24th, 1572. Before sunrise, church bells shattered the silence. Not to call the faithful to prayer, but to unleash a massacre. Armed men stormed through narrow streets, kicking down doors, dragging families into the open. Screams echoed across the city. Blood ran through the gutters. By nightfall, over 10,000 people lay dead. This would become known as the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, one of the darkest nights in European history. And behind it all, whispered in fear across every royal court in Europe, was one name: Catherine de' Medici. Some called her the most powerful woman of the Renaissance. Others called her a monster. But who was she really? A ruthless tyrant? Or a desperate mother fighting to save a collapsing kingdom?
Welcome to Historical Channel, uncovering untold stories, hidden facts, and the strangest chapters of history.
Catherine de' Medici was born into unimaginable power. Her family, the Medici, were not merely nobles. They were bankers to kings, architects of empires, and puppet masters behind European politics. Yet from her very first breath, Catherine's fate turned cruel. Her mother died just days after giving birth. Her father followed shortly after. Before Catherine could even speak, she was already an orphan. Wrapped in silk, surrounded by gold, and guarded by soldiers, yet completely alone. As a child, Catherine was passed from palace to palace, never truly belonging anywhere. To some, she was a priceless political asset. To others, a dangerous burden. At the age of 7, her world collapsed once again. Enemies of the Medici family stormed Florence, overthrowing their rule. Catherine was seized, not as a princess, not as a child, but as a hostage. She was dragged from her home and locked inside a convent, surrounded by hostile guards. For years, she lived behind stone walls, uncertain if she would live to see the next morning. Rumors spread through the city that she would be raped, that she would be executed, that she would simply disappear. Every night, Catherine slept fully dressed, ready to run or die. It was inside those cold, silent halls that Catherine learned her first and most important lesson: never appear weak. She observed everything, every whisper, every betrayal, every shifting alliance. She learned to read faces, to sense danger before it arrived, to hide her fear behind silence. By the time she was freed, the innocent child was gone. In her place stood a girl with steel beneath her skin. Years later, Catherine was traded once again, this time not as a hostage, but as a bride. At 14, she was sent to France to marry Prince Henry, the future King of France. She crossed the Alps, leaving behind her homeland, her language, and her identity. When she arrived at the French court, Catherine was despised. She was mocked for her accent, ridiculed for her manners, insulted for her foreign blood. The French nobles called her the Italian nobody. And worse, her own husband barely noticed her. Henry was madly in love with another woman, Diane de Poitiers, beautiful, charismatic, and nearly 20 years older than him. Diane dominated the court. She controlled Henry. She influenced politics. She wore jewels meant for the queen. Catherine stood in the shadows, invisible. For years, she watched Diane sit beside her husband, touch him, command him. Her position grew even more dangerous when she failed to produce an heir. At court, whispers became threats. If she cannot give birth, she will be replaced. Catherine knew her life balanced on a knife's edge. So she did the only thing she could. She studied. She read forbidden texts. She learned medicine. She observed astrology. She consulted doctors, alchemists, and scholars. Some said she even turned to dark sciences. Then, after 10 years of humiliation, she became pregnant. Not once, but again and again. Soon, Catherine bore 10 children, 3 sons destined to wear the crown. In 1 decade, she transformed herself from a disposable foreign bride into the mother of France's future kings. But the scars of her childhood never faded. They hardened her, because Catherine had learned one brutal truth. In the world of power, love was weakness. Only control ensured survival. Then, in 1559, everything changed. King Henry II entered a ceremonial jousting tournament. In a single tragic moment, a shattered lance pierced his eye. Days later, the king was dead. And Catherine, the invisible queen, suddenly stood at the center of France. But her victory was fragile. Her eldest son, Francis II, was only 15, weak, sickly, easily manipulated. So Catherine became regent. She ruled behind the curtain. Her enemies underestimated her. They still saw the silent Italian woman. They did not yet see the spider weaving its web. France, meanwhile, was tearing itself apart. Religious tension poisoned the land. Catholics and Protestants, known as Huguenots, stood on the brink of war. Every province simmered with violence. Every noble family plotted rebellion. Catherine stood alone between 2 unstoppable forces. She tried peace. She hosted secret councils, proposed religious compromises, arranged marriages between rival factions. For a moment, it almost worked. Then her son died. Francis II collapsed after only 17 months on the throne. Catherine's second son, Charles IX, became king, only 10 years old. Once again, Catherine ruled. Once again, she waited. She surrounded herself with spies, placed informants inside noble households, intercepted letters, monitored ambassadors. No conspiracy escaped her notice. Soon, Catherine possessed more intelligence than any ruler in Europe. Foreign courts began to fear her. They called her the Queen of Whispers. But intelligence alone could not save France. Rebellion grew, armies mobilized, civil war erupted, and Catherine found herself forced to choose peace or survival. She attempted one final gamble, a grand marriage alliance. If she could unite Catholic and Protestant bloodlines, perhaps France could finally breathe. In the summer of 1572, Catherine de' Medici made a bold announcement: a royal wedding. Her daughter, Margaret of Valois, would marry Henry of Navarre, the Protestant heir to one of France's most powerful houses. To the world, it was a miracle. After decades of bloodshed, this union promised peace. Catholics and Protestants celebrated. Church bells rang. Courts across Europe praised Catherine as a visionary queen. At last, France would heal. But behind palace walls, nothing was as it seemed. For Catherine, this wedding was not about peace, it was about control. Thousands of Protestant nobles flooded into Paris for the celebration. France's most powerful Huguenot leaders gathered in one place, inside one city. within reach of the royal guards. To Catherine, it was a strategic dream. Never before had her enemies been so exposed. Yet her gamble was dangerous. If the Protestant faction gained influence over the young king, Catherine would lose everything. Soon, reports began to arrive. Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, the Protestant leader, was gaining the king's trust. Coligny whispered of war against Catholic Spain, of reshaping French foreign policy, of sidelining Catherine forever. To the Queen Mother, it sounded like a death sentence. So Catherine convened her secret council. In dimly lit chambers, France's most powerful men debated. Some urged restraint, others demanded decisive action. Catherine listened, and then she spoke, quietly, coldly. She proposed assassination, just one man, Coligny. If he died, Protestant leadership would collapse. Peace would survive, or so she believed. Days later, a gunman fired from a window. The bullet struck Coligny, shattering his arm, but he lived, wounded, enraged. Now the Protestants demanded justice. They accused the Catholic faction. They demanded vengeance. Paris stood on the brink of explosion, and Catherine knew the trap had failed. Now there was no turning back. That night, Catherine entered her son's chambers. The young king trembled. He was terrified of civil war, terrified of rebellion, terrified of losing his throne. Catherine leaned close and whispered. She told him of a Protestant conspiracy, of a planned coup, of a coming assassination. She painted a nightmare, a kingdom in flames, a family slaughtered, a crown torn from his hands. By dawn, the king was broken, and he gave the order: kill them all. At first, the plan was simple: eliminate the Protestant leaders, quietly, surgically. But fear spreads faster than reason. Once the blades were drawn, control was lost. Paris would soon drown in blood. Just before dawn, the bells of Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois began to ring. At first, softly, then violently. Their echoes rolled through the sleeping city like thunder. This was not a call to prayer. It was the signal. Within minutes, armed royal guards surged through the streets. Doors were kicked in, windows shattered, blades were drawn. Paris awoke to terror. Protestant nobles who had come in celebration were dragged from their beds. Some tried to flee. Some begged. Some fought. Most never stood a chance. Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, the original target, was among the first. Assassins stormed his chambers. They stabbed him repeatedly, then hurled his broken body from a window. Below, an enraged mob waited. They mutilated the corpse, decapitated it, and paraded the head through the streets. Word spread like wildfire. What began as a targeted assassination became a citywide massacre. Catholic mobs joined the slaughter. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Friends betrayed friends. Entire families were erased in minutes. Children were cut down, women hunted, bodies piled in doorways and alleyways. The Seine River soon ran red. And still, the bells rang. By sunrise, Paris had transformed into a nightmare. The streets were slick with blood, the air thick with smoke and screams. And Catherine de Medici stood inside the Louvre Palace, watching. Some accounts say she walked calmly through palace halls. Others claim she trembled, but none deny this. The massacre unfolded with her knowledge. As reports flooded in, Catherine made no move to stop it. What had begun as political calculation now spiraled beyond control. For days, the killing continued. From Paris, the violence spread across France. City after city erupted. town after town burned. By the time the bloodshed finally ended, over 30,000 Protestants lay dead. Europe recoiled in horror. Foreign courts condemned France. Even Catholic leaders were stunned by the brutality. The massacre shattered Catherine's fragile peace. Instead of uniting France, she had plunged it into deeper chaos. Her sons would rule over a kingdom soaked in blood, and her name would become forever linked to one of history's darkest crimes. Catherine had secured her sons' thrones, but she had poisoned their legacy. King Charles IX never recovered. The screams haunted him. He suffered violent nightmares. He clawed at his skin until it bled. He whispered apologies to invisible victims. Just 2 years after the massacre, at only 23, he collapsed. Some said tuberculosis. Others believed guilt had destroyed him. As he lay dying, he cried out, "What blood have I spilled?" His brother, Henry III, inherited the throne. But the kingdom he received was already rotting. Civil war reignited. Catholics and Protestants slaughtered each other without restraint. The royal authority Catherine had fought so hard to preserve began to crumble. Assassination plots multiplied. Rebellions spread. Even within the royal family, trust evaporated. Catherine watched her children turn into fragile kings ruling a broken land. One by one, they died, sick, paranoid, isolated. Each death carved deeper into her soul. Power had cost her everything: her husband, her children, her peace, her humanity. In her final years, Catherine wandered through the empty halls of the Louvre. Once vibrant chambers stood silent, no laughter, no celebration, only echoes. She had built a kingdom on corpses, and now she ruled over ghosts. When Catherine de' Medici died in 1589, there was no grand mourning, no heroic legacy, no triumphant remembrance, only fear and controversy. She left behind a nation permanently scarred and a name forever linked to blood.